Welcome to Truth Be Found. Join us as we slip through the shadows and into the world of high-profile investigations with our host, professional investigator Justin Yentes, as he peels back the layers of the most perplexing cases, unmasking secrets to uncover the truth.
All right, well, today on Truth Be Found, we're honored to have Matt and Tawni Browning. And Matt is a retired officer with over 20 years experience infiltrating some extremist groups like the KKK, border militias, Antifa. And he's a recognized expert on gang and extremist activities. His wife, Tawni, transitioned from an aspiring country singer to be supervising and the casting producer for A&E's Secrets of Polygamy. And together, they co-authored the book, The Hate Next Door, which I just tore through within the last couple of months when it came out. And so I want to welcome both of you to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming.
We're excited to be here. Excited about what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, Tawni. Matt, starting with you, your career in law enforcement took you undercover with some of the most extreme groups in America. Could you tell our listeners what drew you to that? If I can scratch that, I'm going to start over this question. Matt, let's start with you in your career in law enforcement. You ended up going deep undercover with some of the most extreme groups in Arizona and in the United States and potentially worldwide. Yep. Could you explain to our listeners what drew you into this field?
Yeah, you know what? I didn't want to work hate, never knew about hate, and what brought me there was a guy who tried to kill me. Plain and simple. Stuck a gun in my chest and tried to pull the trigger. The barrel was dislodged as it hit me in the chest, and so we fought over the gun, and come to find out he's a fresh cut skin. And, you know, when somebody wants to kill you, it's like, I want to know about that person. And that's how I got into the whole white power, white supremacy movement. And from there, it just blew up.
I can understand how that would trigger, well, for lack of a better term, trigger you.
Yeah.
But pardon the pun. Can you explain, tell our listeners what happened? What was the scenario where you had this interaction?
See, you know what? I've worked gangs for my whole career. And so I was on our gang squad, and we went to Phoenix. At that time in Phoenix, the West Side City Crips were shooting at Phoenix officers, and the officer was just shot in the shin with the 30-06. So our gang unit went to Phoenix to help combat the West Side City Crips. On my way back, a motor officer, pulls up next to me. We're talking, it's hot out. I take my vest off, throw it in the back seat, and we're talking, and a little truck blows the light. And so, the motor goes after the guy. And so I figure I'd turn my radio on, and I figured I'll help out in case he tries to run. And sure enough, he tried to run. I paralleled. He jumped out of his truck and ran. As I'm going, he's on one block, I'm a block north, and we're paralleling him. And then he cuts up at the edge of at the side yard of a house. I saw him coming towards me. And so I go to grab my badge and pull it out because we warm around our necks. So I pull it out, and then I realize, oh crap, I don't have my vest on.
Wow. And
it's like, ugh. But anyways, I'm there. I pull my badge out, Mesa Police. As soon as my badge came up, so my hand was up, he lifts up his shirt, shaved head dude, white t-shirt, dark jeans, Doc Martens, lifts up his shirt and pulls the gun and brings it forward. And as he's bringing it up, that's when I tackle him. We're running at each other. It's basically, linebacker hitting a guy coming up a middle. And I hit him, and the gun hits me. And afterwards, the gun, where it hit me, there was a round circle because that's where the barrel was. And then it was a line, a red, deep line going down to where I was pushing it down. And then as I got it away from me, we fought for a good, it was probably 30 seconds, but it felt like 30 minutes.
Wow.
And it's like in the movies, man. You're fighting over a gun. You got your hand on the gun. You're trying to get your handcuffs. I couldn't get to my gun. All these different things. And finally, I got him flipped over, got him handcuffed. And that's when the patrol officer, I couldn't even get on the radio to tell people where I was at. So, yeah, he tried to kill me. game on.
Now, when you mentioned him earlier, you said that he was a fresh cut skin. What is, for those that don't know, what is a fresh cut skin?
A fresh cut is a guy who just brand new into the scene.
Okay.
So, a lot of people think that you can just become a skinhead, anybody can be a skin. But there's definitely protocol that has to be met. Just like if you want to be a biker, you got to be a hang-around, official hang-around, a probate, and all this other stuff. And so with the skins, a fresh cut is he just earned a certain stature in the group. So he probably earned his white laces, shaved his head bald, and was progressing up.
Okay. And Tawni, you've
Well, I want to
supporting wife.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of that doesn't just happen to the officer. And I think that's one reason we wanted to write the book, is so that families knew that they weren't alone if they were in some law enforcement families as well. Just one of the reasons, because that affected him in different kinds of ways. And when that guy was not prosecuted because of lack of funding and they let him right back out on the street, that affected him. And even more so that it wasn't too long after that. And I don't want to get it wrong, but that guy shot another cop successfully that had only had 6 days on.
Good night.
So, and this
Shot
is
him in the back.
So, there's a lot of failures with the system and different things that happen. But one of the reasons we wrote the book is so that families knew they weren't alone, and that the world knew that these guys aren't robots. Matt did that right. He knew what to do. This guy that just had 6 days on had no way of knowing. He didn't have the experience to know how to combat that fresh cut.
Mm-hmm. And Matt, how long had you been on when this occurred? How long had you been on the job?
About 4 years.
4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay. So as a 4-year veteran officer, then you decided to further investigate and develop the
but
skinhead
I don't think
groups.
I don't think calling the guy on for 4 years, I don't think I constituted being a veteran. I was still learning, and I was still trying to make my way, in the police department. And what this did for me is that it took me from being just a gang guy to, all right, now I have a means and a purpose and a reason to go after this specific group of organizations. So I just jumped into it. I just jumped head first. You did all the research I could do, joined the National Alliance, joined the Klan, joined Aryan Nations, I was Thomas Robb, talked to him all the time on the phone with the Klan, Knights of the KKK.
So when you say you joined the Klan, does that explain what that looks like? Is that an initiation ceremony or?
No. See, I was a member of the Knights.
Okay.
And that's Thomas Robb's group, is probably the biggest group in the U.S. And the reason why I chose that group, the reason why I chose that group is because that group was the biggest, which means it would have its little fingers and arms and everywhere. And if something went on in California or Texas or Nevada or Minnesota, then I would find out about it, and then we could combat it. A group out of California came in, and I met with them. And because I was a member of the Knights and a member of the Nations and a member of World Church of the Creator and all these different things, they just, as soon as they met me, they said, "Hey, you want to be our chief of security?" It's like, sure, And so that developed a relationship with them. They ended up moving out to Kentucky to build a compound. And one of the Nations guys went with them and was running them for a while. So it's just, I think when you're looking for it, when I went in looking for it, but later on in my career and in our family and in our relationship, it came looking for us. It's like, that's why it's the hate next door, because this crap is everywhere.
Right.
And so.
Right. And Tawni, how was that for you as a wife? And you didn't come from a law enforcement background. You came from a country music singing background. Is that correct?
Well, we were little when we got together. Yeah, hate was not something that I really had even thought about. I have more of a Disney-esque type feel. At least that's where I came into this marriage and stuff. But when you see something, you can't unsee it. And when you know something, you have to do something. And that's kind of where my feeling was with him. He was going to be out there fighting, and I was going to help make sure that home, even though it sounds so traditional, but that home was safe, because where he was on the street was not. So that's kind of the role I took at first.
Okay. As supporting Matt in his endeavors.
Right. And I, because of that, I was able to sing for our supper sometimes, but I could stay home with my babies as well.
Okay.
So that, that was my job, was to support him so that he could do. Plus, it was so important. It was just so important work. And I was happy to be a part of that in any way I could be.
Oh, that's great. That's fantastic. Now, both of you collaborated on your recent book, The Hate Next Door. What was the inspiration behind that book, and what did you hope that readers would take away from it?
Well, I didn't want to do it. I mean, I didn't want to put us all out there, just to expose all of this. And once we did, we decided just to do it, so that other families could feel supported, that parents, for me, if their children were getting involved in this kind of thing, they would know, hey, there's a way out. And more so, maybe we could stop it from ever even happening, from children being indoctrinated. And that was my motivation. But
see, yeah, it is a great motivation.
But it was actually my idea too. So I say that, but
see, here's one thing that your listeners or everybody else needs to understand, is that law enforcement is crazy. And you can if you choose to be a patrolman, then be a patrolman. If you want to be a detective or a sergeant or lieutenant, whatever it is, you get to pick which way you want to go. I never picked to go the hate route.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be an intel guy. I wanted to be a gang guy, and that's where I wanted to end. But as my career was going, I had this one supervisor that we actually went to high school together. We talked about him in the book, John Mesa. Johnny's a great guy. And Johnny, we'd sit down, and Johnny would say, Matt, what you're doing is crazy. I mean, you got a book here if you ever want to do a book. And it's like, yeah, forget it. I just want to go put skinheads in jail. We locked up 19 of them for murder or attempted murder. We did a great job. But then when I retired, all that stuff that cops go through was stuck in my head. And Tawni, even though she says she didn't want anything to do with it, Tawni said, dude, you got to get this stuff out of your head. So that's when I started writing down the stories.
And for those that haven't read your book yet, and those that aren't that familiar with undercover work, at what point did you decide to bring your wife along to some of these undercover events? And the second follow-up question is, did you seek approval for that, or was this just
I'll answer
a supportive wife?
I'll answer the first one. When it first started, there's nobody's going to support it.
No,
not Tawni being part of it. Nobody supported what was going on with hate. The city calls me and says, hey, you got to quit teaching hate. You got to stop talking to people about hate, because everybody thinks that Mesa is the hate capital of the world now. Well, I'm sorry, but when you got guys like Josh Fiedler, Sean Gaines, Sammy Compton, Chris Whitley, you got the Vinlanders, you got Volksfront, you got Hammers, you got Warskins, everybody actually living in Mesa.
Right.
Yeah, I think we got a problem, but nobody wanted to look at that as a problem.
Now, why do you both think that they were trying to ignore the issue that was right in front of your faces and right in front of the faces of a lot of us?
I think it's the same thing we're going through.
I think we see it all. It's like history repeats itself. Like Mesa says they don't have a gang problem. Well, they obviously had a gang problem. We can look back and see the gang problem that they had in the 90s, which you were fighting in the middle of. Gilbert's now saying that they also do not have a gang problem, and they've had a gang problem for a while.
For quite a while.
Yes.
So, and I'll address that with Mesa with a story. About 10 years ago, I had an interview with one of the guys from the Arizona Mexican Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
And just as I was leaving, I'd mentioned, I'm going to downtown Mesa for something. And this is a patched member. And he said to me, are you going to go in there by yourself? He's like, I wouldn't do that. And
real quick. So I know you understand, but so maybe other people understand. To be patched up, Emmy, you've done some stuff.
Correct.
Where the good areas and the bad areas are at. And I tell you, freaking Mexican Mafia, the Aryan Brotherhood, those dudes don't mess around. And to have a guy tell you, first of all, for you to be able to go in and talk to him, props, respect, everything for that, because not many people have that opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And when he tells you that, it's like, geez.
It opened my eyes to what the criminal element in Mesa was actually like. Because for a guy like that to say that it would make him nervous to do it alone just shocked the heck out of me.
Yeah.
And I don't think that many people appreciate the danger that some of these organized crime groups or street gangs present to society. Do you have a sense of why kids get involved with these groups to begin with?
Yeah, I think it's Tawni, you say it all the time. Give them a lacrosse stick, give them a football, give them something.
Give them something, because if they're looking for something, if they're looking for connection, which we all need as humans, if they're looking for, what we're biologically designed to do, which is to connect, if they're not feeling that connection, they're going to find it.
Nobody is born in this world with the ability to hate. Anybody who's held a baby knows that there's no hate in this kid. Hate is taught. So as hate is taught, I mean, I got pictures of a 2-year-old throwing up a Sig Heil. I've been to meetings with people pushing strollers. Cortez Park, the National Alliance meeting, when Butler came to town, everybody had their little kids with strollers, hugging Richard Butler and throwing up Sig Heils.
And for those that don't know, could you explain who Richard Butler is and his importance in the scene?
Yeah, Richard Butler was the founder of the Aryan Nations, and that was out of Coeur d'Alene or Hayden Lake, Idaho, right there by Coeur d'Alene. And Richard Butler was huge in the whole Christian identity movement. So, and he was a veteran, and believe it or not, the guy had the patent for Fix-A-Flat. The guy was he was a genius. He was really smart. But
it's all next door. See, I mean, now that you get a Fix-A-Flat, you're going to say, "Wow."
Yeah, but what we have is Butler also was part of. They met at his compound. The Order did. And so that's Robert Matthews, David Lane, and they went and did armed robberies across the United States, killed the talk show host in Denver, and eventually Robert Matthews dies on Whidbey Island with another fiery standoff with the government.
Wow.
So that was all Richard Butler. And so Richard is a icon. He's the GOAT. He's the god of the Christian identity movement, and the skinheads look up to him. And so when I met with Richard, we were talking, and I mean, he actually asked me to be one of his private security guys, and I said, "Yeah, let's do it."
And this was when you were in your undercover capacity?
Yeah, it was when I was undercover meeting, and of course, the city says, "Hey, Matt, we really can't have a police officer as part of a hate organization." I pull out my AN card. I'm already a member of it.
That ship sailed.
So, yeah.
But I was like, are these guys just hard up? Or are you just really good? Because it just seemed like he was getting these leadership positions. Like, it was like legit that he was. And it was just crazy. I'm like, they don't even know you. And he just could walk right in somehow. And he made it happen.
But I want to answer your question.
He got their trust.
Okay.
Is the reason why they get involved in gangs or hate is because somebody brings them in. Uncle, dad, cousin, brother, mom, whatever it is. Online right now, radicalization is huge. When you're talking Hispanic and Black gangs, a lot of the Hispanic or Native American gangs is generational. Grandpa was this and dad was this, so they follow the same footsteps. Our examples as adults are so crucial and key in a child's development. And even though if you had kids, I don't know your kids, but if they see me on the news and I'm spouting off crap about something, they're listening to me. So as we listen to Fox News or CNN or MSN or whatever it is, there's no togetherness. They're all fighting each other, and our kids hear that. And so they're going to gravitate to, I don't have to agree with Tawni. I think I'm just going to argue with her. And that arguing spreads everybody out.
It's got a ripple. It's a ripple effect. It really is.
It is. And how did this transition into your work with the polygamous organizations and the polygamous families around?
It's crazy that it connects. And you asked earlier how if it was sanctioned or anything like that. It's not like he had a lot to say about it, because when the hate started coming home to my doorstep, literally when they killed our 4-H lamb, he didn't have a choice anymore. It was like, who are these people that are coming after my Disney-esque home that I had tried to create a bubble over and keep safe? It's not like he said, "Hey, Tawn, you want to come with me?" I mean, there's funny stories in there.
Coming whether he liked it or not.
I mean, it was just like you're going to that. And plus, he was so passionate about it that lots of times his brain was there. So I would say he's like, there's a skinhead show tonight or whatever. And I'd say, well, if we go and do that, could we then do something that I want to do? Because then I knew. So there's a lot of dynamics here.
That's an interesting give and take.
Yeah,
go to a skinhead show. What would you ask for?
Dinner.
Dinner.
Just dinner. Just go to the grocery store with me without the babies.
Yeah, or it was, but even going to the grocery store, we run into these knuckleheads.
Yeah, so it just, I don't.
A lot of it, okay, Matt, I'll go with you to the skin show or to a show with a bunch of skins, but tomorrow night, Merle Haggard's in town.
Yeah, we did.
Right.
That would happen.
Okay.
Because I look, anyway, and I digress. But you asked how we got into it.
Sure.
It actually was with somebody that wanted to do a show with Matt on skinheads. So do you want to tell that?
Yeah, what happened?
Well, there's a lot to that, actually. He was working with an agency.
I'll give you this
there's
short.
a lot there.
I'll give you this short version. We developed the Skinhead Intelligence Network, and we were having an international meeting, and somebody came to me and said, hey, I can't find this guy. And I said, I can find him. Give me 2 weeks, I'll find him. Oh, you can't find him in 2 weeks. Yeah, I can, and if I do, you will pay for my flight and dinner when I go and take a picture with him to prove that I found him.
Mm-hmm.
So within a week, we found him, and Tawni and I flew out, and we go to meet with him, and this guy was hilarious. I mean, the most disgusting sense of humor, and we're sitting in the steakhouse as he's talking racial garbage. I mean, throwing the N-word out and all the stuff.
It's terrible. You say it's funny, but it wasn't. And I finally had to say, hey, he's a veteran. He just returned, and we're trying to, because it was very, very obscene and very uncomfortable.
It was bad.
So you say it was funny, but that's your way of dealing with things. It wasn't funny.
That's my way of dealing with this guy's a piece of crap. Why am I sitting here? But while we were there, we met a producer who wanted to talk to me about maybe a book or a show. And it's like, okay, so we meet, and Tawni's really good at reading people. And so
I can see that.
Yeah. So she sits there, and as soon as we walk up, she's kind of upset. And Tawni goes, what's going on? Well, they gave me the show to produce, and I have no idea what to do. And then it's...
Yeah, and I said, what is it? And they said, Escaping Polygamy, which was the first show that I did. Okay. And I said, well, how are you going about it? And so we just started talking, and I said, I think I can help you, because she was biracial, and she's going into an all-white community. And I understood the background a little bit more than she did. I said, I think I can help you. She said, would you? She had me out working with her within a week.
Wow.
And once I got in, I had a 12-year-old girl. I saw what was happening with these 12-year-old girls. And here we go again. Once I saw something, I couldn't unsee it. And once you know something, you have to do something. So on that show, it's very heart-wrenching, very hard. We went through a lot of producers, and I ended up kind of being able to stay with it, probably because I understood a little bit more than others. It was very difficult.
Now, just like the skinhead stuff, where I brought Tawni in, saying, "Okay, Tawni, you can go out of town, you can do all this stuff, but this is it. It flipped around. Now I was like, Tawni was dragging me along.
It truly was that. It was like he was doing things to keep us safe, and it's like, you're doing all this stuff. Let's just put it on camera. So that's kind of how that all happened.
Oh, that's great.
Very organically, both ways.
Okay. Now, tell me a little bit about your experience working with these polygamous sects. How is it that folks get drawn in? How does this compare to your work with the skinhead investigations?
At first, I didn't see the connection, but then I found that it's the same ideology. There's so much that is the same. I mean, the Kingstons will stand up in church and say things like, Hitler had the right idea. He just didn't do it with the priesthood. And so it was like, oh, I mean, it's just kind of crazy that, the white supremacy, the white superiority, the eugenics that they were practicing from the 40s on. Pure bloodline straight from Jesus Christ, things like that. And so I was like, oh, I know this space.
Wow.
And you got to remember, when you throw religion into anything, because if you take religion out of polygamy, you have a criminal syndicate. Correct. You have organized crime. You have everything that fits the statutes that they should be prosecuted for. But as soon as you throw that religion in, we're in trouble. Because the same with skins, they throw religion, they throw Christian identity, they throw Odinism, Asatru, whatever the religion they are. and we have a problem.
And when Matt was doing all of this work, I like the academic part of it. So I had really delved into all of the religious stuff. So when I was hearing this from the pulpit or from people that we were talking with, and I found out that in Christian identity, that the blacks are the beast of the field, that's what they teach. Well, the Kingsons and other FLDS and polygamous sects are teaching that the blacks sat on the fence. There was just so many similarities that I like I said, I knew this space.
Okay. And tell me about how you work with someone that wants to escape a skinhead organization or a polygamous organization. Are those similar in nature? And I know that we're looking at what for the layman might seem to be two sides of a spectrum. But what we're learning is that these are pretty well connected. Are the exit strategies that you have for those involved in these groups similar in any way?
Well, they're close societies, both of them. So that, there we have some similarities there as well because they're close societies, but they're completely different. I feel like polygamous women and children are polygamous and that have grown up in that society are almost refugees. It's not, they weren't watching Scooby-Doo and eating Lucky Charms on Saturdays.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any reference for that kind of thing. So it's like they look like Americans. They may even have work ethic like Americans, but they have no field of reference that we have whatsoever.
And that sounds like it's a similar background to those that enter into a skinhead gang or any gang.
The difference is polygamists are conditioned from birth. There's no brainwashing. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's all they knew. It's not like they got into it later.
Okay.
Whereas skinheads, I mean, maybe if they're conditioned from birth, it would be the same. But otherwise, they're brainwashed in or whatever happens.
At one point, I mean, whether it's polygamy or racism or the white nationalism or whatever it is, whatever label you want to put on hate, sometime somewhere that seed is planted in the head. Polygamy is from birth, and it's horrific from birth. They teach them the sovereign mentality. You don't trust law enforcement. You don't trust the banking system. You don't trust any of this stuff. And so that's why some of the groups have their own banks, and these different things. So that's what they're taught. Stay off the internet. Don't do this. In the white supremacist movement, these guys are going on, deep levels of social media to get their garbage, to get their rhetoric, to get their stuff. But what I found is the same between these. You have the ideology, and that ideology that Warren Jeffs would spew from the pulpit was the rhetoric. And then you have the religion, which turbocharges the ideology and the rhetoric, which then equals the violence. And if we think that polygamy is not violent, Tawni has story after story of assaults, rapes, molests, murders, all these different things. In the white power movement, I have stories of murder after murder after murder after assault after boot party, all because of what's going on in their head, which is the same ideology. The white power movement, we are God's people. Polygamy,
we are God's chosen people.
Wow.
So it was crazy. So when I brought him on with me, it was like, oh, he knew this space too. And when I would tell him what was going on, he'd say, that sovereign mentality. So we were able to just mesh the two in a crazy way that we didn't even anticipate would happen.
And then you bring it all together. Chevy and Cheyenne Keyhole, they were back in the 80s, they were in shootouts with law enforcement. They came to Arizona, they squatted on BLM land. They were also Phineas priests, which is, in my opinion, the most violent, extreme form of hate. They were also polygamists.
I did not know that.
Yeah, neither did we.
Priests?
Yeah.
Right.
Not all Phineas priests. Chevy and Cheyenne and their family were polygamists.
And then you look at Waco. He was practicing polygamy, and it was just kind of crazy for us too. It opened our mind in a way that we didn't expect.
Boy, that I think will be eye-opening for a lot of people that are listening to this. Could you explain who the Phineas priests are and how they play into the white nationalist or the white supremacist organizations?
The Phineas priests, I'm going to give you my opinion, because I can say I'm a hammerskin.
Correct.
I'll have the cross hammers, I'll put up the sign, I'll have everything. But if you're a Phineas priest, you have no idea who these guys are, because it is not an organization. It's a calling from God.
Mm.
And your calling from God is to stop race mixing, is to stop the mud race from progressing, which is our African and Black communities. Is to stop the Mexicans from coming across the border because they're dirtying up the blood pool of the United States that we're hearing a lot lately. So all these different things, the Phineas believe that they are the security guards for God. They are God's soldiers on earth, that they are called to do this by God himself.
Okay.
The most violent people, because God told them to do it.
And the polygamous men, if you talk to them, if you can talk to them like we're talking right now, and I've been so fortunate to have those kind of conversations, they will do anything for their leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's
True.
very much the same dynamic.
That's true. You know, I'll mention one case that that we're working on, and obviously we've got certain limitations as to what we can discuss, but we're representing a woman that is a victim of polygamy, and because I'm a male and a big dude,
Mhm.
we sent in one of our female investigators to build a bond with her, and she didn't want to talk to men, so she ended up talking
Right.
to females.
Right.
How is it that these women that get wrapped up in a polygamous marriage that is violent and that is part of a white supremacist ideology, how is it that they can ever get out of that?
Oh, that's such a great question. Because I have one of the things that I say is, look, they can't crawl out of the window, and we slap them on the ass and say, okay, have a good life. Because escaping polygamy is a lifelong process.
Mhm.
It doesn't just happen. And so we have to, as refugees, we have to support them as such and give them the tools that they need so that they can actually unravel and change this mindset, make new neural pathways. See, oh, I was conditioned. Now I see. It's almost an awakening.
See, but I think she's a little bit humble on this stuff. But
I am
I think
so
that,
humbled
I
to
think that
ever even work with these women. I can't believe what they have to go through once they leave.
there's a difference between working polygamy and working hate. Tawni truly develops a relationship and a bond with these girls. Like there's one girl in particular, we love her to death. The first time she met me, Tawni introduced me to her. This is their mind. She didn't say hi. She didn't say anything. I don't know if do you guys bleep swear words out or kind
No.
of say. She looks at me and she goes, "Fuck you, motherfucker."
Whoa.
The first words out of her mouth.
And that was enough. FLDS girls from the crick, they have mouths.
They can talk.
They're like, by the time we're done with you, you're going to be talking like us.
See, but that's the conditioning.
But she was so scared.
She didn't care that I was with Tawni or that I was her protection or anything else. She hated men. And so when they leave polygamy, they have to not only learn how to dress and how to act and how to talk, they have to learn how to respect police. They have to learn how to talk to Uber drivers.
Mhm.
They have to learn all kinds of different things. And so Tawni has done, Tawni has done a great job.
No, the women that leave have done a good job and have the courage to actually push through all of those things. And the particular girl that woman that he's talking about right now, she calls him Range Man. So if she has any issues or whatever, she now has this bond with Matt, a very healthy thing going on that she can trust.
Mhm.
And he'll tell her, you can trust this or that or whatever. That she has a different field of reference now.
And what Tawni did teach me in dealing with skins that leave the movement, because it's like, you can take Kid Rock, you can take me out of the trailer, but you can't take the trailer out of me or whatever it says. It's the same with hate. You're always, you know this from talking to people, you're always got the eyes on the back of your head. But when you find the one who truly has disavowed hate, has disavowed the brotherhood life or the skin life or whatever it is, those are good people.
Mhm.
And as long as you continue to be that example for them, like we are supposed to be for our kids, I think that's where we have the success. Because we got a lot of guys that a lot of ex skins. I mean, we've sat and talked to a dude that was locked up, and we laugh. We laugh. He was cellies with some of the guys I locked up. I talked to another guy who I chased him down freaking 7th Street back in the day.
Crazy. It's a little crazy.
And we laugh about it.
I'll tell you, when I was reading your book, I was laying there in my bed, had my laptop up so I could, as you'd mentioned names, I'd say, you know what, I know that name. Where do I know that from? I type it into my my server, my email, and find out where I'd interviewed this guy, and then I'm getting the backstory of how he chased you from where were you? You were at a grocery store.
Oh, you're
Oh, yeah.
talking, yeah.
Yes, that you had an interaction and then fled to your house.
Hmm.
So getting the backstory on some of these folks was pretty incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was crazy. That was when it was going bad.
So did that help you? I mean, what was your thoughts on that? I'm so curious.
Well, so I obviously work in the field of criminal defense, and so some of the folks that you mentioned, I've gone in and interviewed in an attempt to put context to a crime, and not necessarily one that they have committed, but that someone else under their tutelage has committed. It's usually a younger skinhead trying to, I don't know if they use the term, earn his bones or earn his laces or whatever the term may be, to prove himself to the gang. And we're trying to put in perspective why someone would commit these crimes to impress, a guy like Compton or some of these other folks that you've interacted with.
Compton's a piece of work.
And so it puts us in a position of going in and getting context from a really wide array of folks.
Yeah.
But having you and I worked on a case together about 4 years ago, an Aryan Brotherhood case, where we were working on settling a death penalty case where someone had killed someone within the prison, qualified for the death penalty, had an Aryan Brotherhood connection, and having your input and your context to the organization was just invaluable for us in putting together a full, complete life story of our defendant.
When you're talking prison gangs, I mean, yeah, we live out in Queen Creek, but there's a facility in the prison that is ran just like Queen Creek or Gilbert or Mesa. They have their leaders, they have their councils, they have, their law enforcement, they have everything. And yeah, they're going to commit whatever act they can for their bones. But in the case you're talking about, there's specific rules that have to be followed if you're going to do these things.
Correct.
And, luckily for that guy, he didn't follow the rules. So that one death penalty was kind of off the table a little bit, but he's never going to get his desire because, well, you shouldn't have done what you did to get locked up to start with, because he'll never be a brother with that. Right. So I think it's important what you're doing. You're telling people what's up. You're telling people, don't stick your head in the sand. And it's like with polygamy, these women and children and young men are being trafficked, being assaulted, being all these different things that we as a community and we as good people need to know and understand. So what can we do to help? And that's why in one of the last chapters of the book, I think we had some solutions and stuff. And because we don't want to just go out there and say, hey, this is
all horrible. I'm
Matt Browning.
Yeah.
I'm Matt Browning. I did all this stuff. You know what? I don't really care. I don't. What is your solution?
Right.
And that's the reason why we do what we do.
And our solution is to start talking. I mean, that's where we start, and that's what you're doing there. So.
Oh, I just can't convey enough how much I respect you both for the work that you've done and the work that you're continuing to do. This was probably a year or two ago at a mall in the East Valley. There was this drunk guy that was kind of on the floor freaking out, and a couple of people walked up to him, and I noticed he had a Thor's hammer around his neck, and he had some Asatru runes on his arm. So I told my wife, stay the hell back.
Yeah.
So, and I got everyone else back. But if folks if they don't know what the signs are to look for, this stuff can be right under your nose.
It is, and it is under our nose.
It's the same thing with the polygamists. We had a group that had come down from Colorado City or one of the areas up there and driving a really nice quad cab pickup. There was 4 or 5 women in it. They all had the standard polygamist haircut and the long dresses that were matching.
Hair to Jesus.
Is that what that is?
No, it isn't. But that's just how I
That's
tease
what they
him.
call it.
That's how we tease him. Yeah.
I've always wondered why their hair is up so high, and folks didn't realize it, and I notified the people I was with, hey, those are polygamists. Just keep an eye on it. And it's great that you're out there putting this into context, that this isn't just a bunch of adults living whatever type of life they want. There are often child victims. There are often very brainwashed victims. There are often people that don't, or that wouldn't have chosen this life for themselves.
You know
want
what?
to get out.
I know we have 5 minutes, but I have to say this. We've got these people that are being, indoctrinated into all of this. We've got 9-year-old little girls that are being married off to 40-plus-year-old men, as we saw in Sam Bateman. This is not a victimless crime. It's not just adults getting their freak on. Go get your freak on.
Right.
But leave kids out of it.
100%. 100%.
And what's important is for us as a community, and Tawni talks about the hair to Jesus, everything that they do is for a purpose. It's not just hair to Jesus. Warren told them to have their hair like that. Warren told them to wear the dresses the way they do. In the white power movement, the Asatru, the Thor's hammer, they all mean something.
They do.
And it's important for people to see and understand, because it's through understanding, we understand how indoctrinated they are. We understand how deep they are. We understand the violence potential. If I ever see somebody with a Phineas Priest tattoo, I'll go up on anybody, but I'm getting help for this one. And that's the importance of knowing. And shoot, we had one of our sons was taking pictures of a skinhead tattooed guy at the grocery store. Dad, what does this mean? What does this mean?
But so awareness.
Back away.
That's where we start,
Right.
and I like I said, I'm really glad you're doing this, so we can start the conversations and come up with the solutions together.
Likewise. And I'd love to have you both back on. I think we've got so much to dive into as far as the gang history, some of the Vinlanders that have been here, the Hammerskins. For me as an investigator, and for you, I'm sure the backstory and the history is fascinating, and it's frightening, and for you, Tawni, the work that you're doing helping these women is just humbling to be with you both. So I want to thank you both. For all of those that want to learn more, definitely go on to Amazon and pick up The Hate Next Door, and definitely check out your shows on A&E, which are Escaping Polygamy and The Secrets of Polygamy.
Yeah, that's our new show, Secrets of Polygamy. That's, you'll see a lot of this guy on that show as well. So,
well, thank you so much for being
you.
here. We really appreciate everything.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Truth Be Found. Keep the pursuit alive and subscribe to the realm of high-profile investigations as each secret edges us closer to the truth. Until next time, stay vigilant.